Hey you guys, Be Love here. Hey. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching a Be Love video, welcome. Um, so a little disclaimer, if this is your first video and you clicked solely because of the title and the story time, I am a walk and talk kind of girl when I do my story time. So very rarely will you actually see my face. My surroundings might sound different because I walk in all the rooms on the bottom half of my home. You might hear my ducks in the background too. So I apologize in advance if any of those things are distractions. But yeah, I definitely walk and talk when I'm doing any kind of story time. So just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. If you are not a first time watcher and you are subscribed, welcome back. Just a quick heads up to you guys. Resurrection is coming out July 3rd, the finale to the Black Mayhem Mafia saga. I am so sad to see these characters go, but we're definitely going to say goodbye to them with a bang. If you missed my last video that discussed the Black Mayhem Mafia box, make sure you check that out after you're done watching this one. They are now available for purchase. I will leave the link to check that out below. I'm not going to have any new June releases, but I did update quite a few of my old titles. So I updated the first 5 books I ever released, plus Power and Elle and Royal and Cameron. So if you read the Royal and Cameron series and you were anxious to read Femi, but you didn't read her paperback when it came out in 2017, her update story is now included with the updated standalone version of Roland Cameron, which is out now. I'll probably drop the link for that too, but if I don't, just, go to Amazon and type in Roland Cameron Be Love and it will pop up. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let me tell y'all about my rental home experience from hell. Literally hell. Now, I believe in God. My thing is, if you believe in angels, then you should believe in demons as well. Now ghosts is a whole other kind of thing. I've never Well, I haven't believed like ghosts could actually inhabit a space and haunt it or anything like that. But look, in 2020, my perspective on that changed because of this rental house. So let me start from the beginning. Yesterday, I was watching an influencer's office tour video, and I'll probably link that too. Just depends on if I remember. And she was doing an office tour, but she used I guess it was her old apartment or just an apartment in general for her office. And I was like, wow, that's revolutionary. Like, I don't know where she got that from, if she just had the mind to do it. I don't know where she's got that idea from, but I was like, that's freaking revolutionary because it's perfect. Like, I love my home and I love being a full-time author and publisher. I love working for myself and working from the comfort of my home. But working from the comfort of my home has definitely, it's just time for a change. I've been doing it since 2016, 2017, and it was cool pre-quarantine, but just I still have like a lockdown mentality. So even though, the mask mandates have been lifted, I'm still wearing a mask. Even though, we can travel freely and go to restaurants and all these other places, I still stay at home. And so working from home and just spending so much time at home because of COVID and all of that kind of stuff, it's suffocating. And I have just recently started to come out of a really bad anxiety, paranoia, depression state. And a lot of that started in this rental property. And I'm going to get into that. But I started to come out of it at the new house. In 2021, 2022 has been so much better for me mentally and emotionally and spiritually. But yeah, your girl was off her rocker a little bit in 2020 because of all this stuff that was going on. So I decided that I wanted to rent some office space and at least work outside of the house. So I was just going to go back to the original office space that I had early 2020. Not early 2020, early 2016. And something was just kind of like, I don't really want to do that because it was still going to be a whole lot of people. So I would have my own office, but it would be hundreds of people in the office space. So I was like, I might need to look into actually renting just my own office space to avoid feeling like I still have to be around people. So when I saw her video, I was like, if I get an apartment and convert it to my office space, not only will it give me that homey, comfortable vibe, I won't have to deal with no other people. I can come and go as I please. I can set it up how I want. It'll just be perfect. And so I started looking at apartments around my house, the house I'm renting now, and I found a few options, started applying last night. And I was like, whatever happens, happens. I don't have anything too much to worry about, but I also prayed and was like, God, if this is not the move, don't let me get approved. Because I'm really big on staying out of situations that are going to cause me more harm than good at this state of my life. Like, those days are over. I don't often get disappointed when things don't fall through because I feel like they didn't happen for a reason. So I was like, if this ain't if this ain't the mood, don't let me get approved. So there's one place in particular that I really, really wanted to get approved for. And it was just perfect. Not only was it going to give me like um naturey kind of woodsy vibes, but it would also give me a pool and a lake, so I would have my water, which I love to look at. And I have, a little lake behind my house, but it don't give me the vibes that I need. And I think I've been going to San Diego too much because your girl done got a little bougie with her preference when it comes down to water. Like, I wanted to look a certain way, it got to give me a certain type of feeling. So the lake that I got behind my house, it really don't give me them vibes. So this apartment was going to be perfect. I would have two different sources of water, plus like all this beautiful, like woodsy aesthetic in the background as well. Now I wasn't going to be going into the woods and the trees, but just being able to sit on the bench and look at it I don't know, y'all. It's so perfect and relaxing. And I don't know what it is about nature. I don't know if it makes, us feel closer to God or, whatever the case may be, but it's always so calming and peaceful to me. So the apartment was literally perfect. I could definitely see myself getting up happily and going to, my apartment to work 4 or 5 days out of the week, because this is also going to help me with my life work play balance. So yeah, I was really super excited, but at the same time I was like, don't get too excited because you never know, what can actually happen. So hope for the best, but be prepared for, some BS. So the lady who, I guess, I don't know what you call those people, the lease agent or lease manager or whoever, she called me and emailed me and basically was walking me through the process, getting all my information and stuff. And she was like, okay, when I get an approval, how do you want me to contact you? Do you want me to contact you, via email, or do you want me to call you? And I was like, well, if you get it before 4 p.m., send me an email. And so after I said that, she was like, can I give you a call? And I was like, oh shit. Here we go. This is about to be some bullshit. She about to reject me. So I was like, yeah, you can call me. So she called me and she was basically like, hey, this property management came up and I just wanted to know if you were aware. And as soon as she said the name, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? because I had completely 100% blocked them out of my mind. Like it was such a horrible experience that I have not wanted to think about these people since I got the hiccups. Yeah, I just ate some Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry. Since we moved out January of last year. So I was completely just taken aback because I was like, what? 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 So, yeah, she was like, I was just trying to make sure you were aware. And I was like, girl, no, I was not aware because, I released 6,600 to these people. So there's not really a reason for them to be saying that I owe anything. And she was like, she's going to reach out or whatever and see, what it is. And I know what it is, but I'm curious to see what they're going to say it is. And I also want her to email me whatever the owner or the property manager says. But that is the reason why I'm doing this story time, because it was such a horrible experience. I was like, I gotta do a story time about this because it pissed me off just hearing their name, and it triggered me so much to the point to where when I say I got heated, I got heated. So I was like, let me make a story time so I can laugh about this shit because it really had pissed me off. So in 2019, I got married and I was staying in an apartment. So we were going to move into a house together after we got married. Now, my sister was in the process of moving. So she was like, yeah, I can't get out of my lease, but I'm ready to move. So if you want to move in here, you can until, y'all find the house that y'all really want. So I was like, okay, great. So yeah, we'll do that. So we moved into her house and it was a nice thought in that moment. But realistically, it wasn't going to work for me because I wasn't comfortable living somewhere that was in someone else's name. Just because, I wasn't really comfortable with that. I would have preferred my home to be in my own name. So just in case anything happened, God forbid, it wouldn't negatively impact her. So it wasn't anything wrong with the house or anything like that. I just would have preferred being in something that was in my own name. So we stayed there for um from like May, from like March, no, when did we? I think it was May, from May 2019 to like March 2020. So I started looking at houses early 2020, maybe like February, or late January, early February. And I found this big, beautiful 2-story historic home. And it was absolutely perfect. I had like a goal list when it came down to homes. I wanted something historic, I wanted something brand new, and I want like a penthouse type of apartment. So that was on my list. Absolutely gorgeous, renovated, perfect, 2,200, which is expensive, but the house was like 2,400 square feet. So it seemed worth it. Um, and so I was so excited. I showed my husband. He loves he loves historic homes as well. So it was genuinely perfect. I was surprised we even got approved for it. And the guy was like, yeah, I'm just so excited to get somebody in the house because, of all of the time and money that we spent on the renovations. And, I just want a family to be able to benefit from the home. So we talked a lot. Like we emailed a lot, and my husband talked to him on the phone a lot. I don't really like talking on the phone, but we would talk from time to time. We would text, and we just asked a lot of questions basically because he was in such a rush. Now I'm about to tighten my earbuds just in case it cuts off. I'm gonna have to restart this. Hopefully it won't. Let me see. Yay, it's still recording. Okay, so we asked a lot of questions because he was in a rush to get us in the house. And I understood his excitement. The house was beautiful, so we were anxious to get in it too. But at the same time, I was like, okay, you moving a little bit too fast, because we were paying rent at that house. That lease wasn't going to be up until like April or May. And he was trying to get us in there February or March. So I was like, we would have to pay the rent for basically both homes on top of utilities, moving company, furniture, storage, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you're moving a little bit too fast, sir. Let me just make sure we're on the same page. One of the things that we discussed, I know for a fact with the owner of the house, was the length of the lease and how difficult it will be for us to get out of the lease. And my husband and I remember specifically him saying we would not be tied down to our lease. And that if we wanted to leave, all we would have to do was give 30-day notice. And that was the only thing that made moving in feel more secure than it actually did, because I was like, well, if something does happen, at least we'll be able to leave as long as we give 30 days notice. So we gave a whole hell of a lot in fees. We did a security deposit. We did first month's rent. We did last month's rent. So we ended up paying over $6,600, including the fees. Over $6,600 to move, on top of still having to pay rent at the old house, paying for the moving company, and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a very, very, very expensive move and a very abrupt move, but it seemed like it was going to be worth it. So we get in the house, March 2020, and shit hit the fan. Y'all, let me start with what was probably the biggest thing for me and for him. The biggest thing was the mental and emotional toll that that house and that neighborhood took on the both of us. Okay, so how the street was, it was literally in the middle of Midtown, which is a pretty decent neighborhood in Orange Mound. Now, people would consider Orange Mound a hood, um, and Midtown, a better, safer, more expensive neighborhood. So we were right in the middle of both of those. One street to one side would put you in Midtown. One street to another side would put you in Orange Mound. All day, every day, and I'm not exaggerating. All day, every day, there are sirens. Ambulance sirens, fire truck sirens, police sirens, all day, every day. Sunday to Sunday. AM to PM, sirens. The first day we moved in, there was a fight on our street between a man and a woman. So our first day in, our welcome to the neighborhood, was a domestic violence situation. There were several homeless people who loitered, which wasn't a big problem because they didn't bother us. But at the same time, it was a problem because my husband was doing like overnight security and bonding and stuff. So there were several nights when I was at home by myself, and I would never want anyone to notice, our patterns, his patterns specifically, and feel like they can plot enough to try to break into the cars or the house or anything because he's gone. So there were burglaries, there were robberies, there were shootings and fights on a constant basis. Now, to get even more specific, we had neighbors, two sets of neighbors. One set of neighbors had a mental problem that caused them to have the police called to their home several times because they would fight the family member that was caring for them. And the other neighbor was in a domestic situation, and they were always fighting with their partner, And right before, one of the final straws was they ended up shooting their partner and themselves. And my husband called the police. Police did not even come immediately. That's how much the police were called to that neighborhood and even specifically our street. The police weren't even in a rush to come to see about these people. So at that point, I was like, nah, you know what? We got to go because this is too much for my life. Like this ain't gonna work. So on top of the constant sirens, you can't get any peace. You can't get any quiet. There's no sense of calm unless you have in noise canceling headphones. Cause I'm not exaggerating, you guys. It was literally all day, every day. Constant fighting, constant gun shooting. It was just a lot. On top of all of that, the house was not ready for moving. Now, he didn't say this, but he basically rushed the moving process because he was so excited to get someone into that property. So he ended up moving us in before his maintenance team approved it and before he even did like the final walkthrough. And we know this not just because of all of the issues that we were having, but we know this because the second to last or the last time someone came for maintenance, because we was constantly having to do maintenance requests, the guy admitted it. He was like, look, we told him this house wasn't ready, for moving in. He didn't do the final walkthrough. He was just rushing us to get the house ready, but we told him it wasn't ready for anybody to live here. And I wish we would have recorded him, but I wasn't expecting things to go down the way that they did. So we didn't even record him when he said that, but I wish we would have recorded him. So yeah, he basically rushed us into this house that was nowhere near ready for moving in. And it was just a horrible experience. So we found ourselves constantly, several times throughout the month, from March to the next January when we moved, constantly having to call somebody for maintenance because of all of the issues that we were having. And I got a screenshot. I'm going to list everything that was wrong after the second to last visit that they made. Because we basically told, okay, well, let me tell y'all this too, because this was a major problem. The owner is the person we were talking to before we signed the lease. When we signed the lease, we basically had his property management company as our point of contact. Now, the owner was pleasant, cool, chill guy. He's the one who told us all we had to do was give 30 days notice. The lease, it wouldn't be a problem, all of that bullshit. The property manager, the lady that we were talking to, total and complete opposite. She was a bitch, very difficult to work with, very difficult to get in contact with, communicate with. Every time we called, would not get an answer. You can't email them. You have to work directly through the portal. So it was just like it was day and night basically between working with the owner to sign the lease and then working with the property manager once we signed the lease. And her attitude and just lack of care was another reason why I was like, okay, we got to get up out of here because I've been there trying to, so now we got to go. But yeah, so we had ended up after we had a whole lot of issues, we called him because it was so difficult, communicating with her. And my husband was just basically like, we ain't signing up for all of this, we finna move unless you get this, that, and the third corrected. So even with the long list of things that I'm going to read to you all, there were still a shitload of things that were fixed before the final straw. So when I read it, just keep that in mind. This list is the short version. I actually had two. I had one saved in my notes, and we sent that to him. Well, to her, to the property manager through the portal. They fixed one half of everything, and then we still had this super long list once we ended up having to just make that final call to move. So let me tell y'all. Okay. So This is the reason why I said I don't believe in ghosts, but something was going on in the house because not only were we mentally and emotionally disturbed, but it looked like the okay, remember this is an old historic house. It was built, I think, like 1824 or 1924, something like that. And it looked like there was a tombstone and a grave in the backyard. And if I would have noticed that, I would not have moved there. Okay. I'm not living on no house with no dead bodies in the backyard. I don't want nobody's spirit in my house while I'm living there. If it ain't mine, I just want my spirit and my body in that house. I don't want no outside spirits in my house. Like, no. So if I would have noticed that, I would not have moved there. Some shit I just don't play with. And my husband would always joke about it because I think he knew if I could prove that that was what that was, I would have left immediately. So he would always joke about it because there was really no way for us to know unless we dug it up and who who was going to do that? Not me. So it was just weird. Like we both just seemed to change as soon as we got in that house, individually and as a couple, we just started having just horrible communication, horrible anxiety, paranoia, depression, everything. On top of his sickness, his battle with cancer. It was just a lot. So closer towards when we were actually about to leave, I was going down the steps because it was a two-story house. I didn't have anything on my feet, so I wasn't wearing shoes or socks, nothing slippery. I was walking down the steps, and it felt like somebody pushed me down the steps. And I'm not exaggerating. I know I'm a storyteller, but I'm telling the truth. It felt like someone pushed me down the steps. Never in my life have I ever fallen downstairs, especially completely awake, alert, sober, with nothing on my feet. So if I would have had on socks, I would have been like, maybe. But I was barefoot on hardwood steps. There was no reason for me to have fallen down those steps. It literally felt like somebody pushed me down the steps. And after that, when we left, and my husband went to do the final grab of our items, he said he could have sworn he heard somebody laughing in the house when he was leaving out. Now, I'm going to let you draw your own conclusion. But for me, it felt like somebody's spirit was still in their house and they didn't want nobody living because we didn't know there was an older couple who had basically just stopped taking care of the house and died in the house. We didn't know that. They had all of these dogs, all of these cats. House was unkempt, died in a damn house, y'all. So I don't know if it was one of them. I don't know whose spirit was in their house, but somebody's spirit was in their house, in their backyard. They didn't want us in their house. They wanted us out. They got us out, okay? They literally pushed me out because once I felt that shit, I was like, all right, I'm gone. So I feel like it was some spirits up in their house that just wanted us out. And they tortured us basically until we got out of their house. So, but yeah, the final straw was all of the maintenance issues, and the rodent issues. So y'all, there were holes in the walls, holes in the walls, holes in the walls, inside the house, in the basement, in the attic, all that shit. So there were rats, there were raccoons, possums, squirrels, all these damn rodents, y'all, in the house. I don't like that shit. I just now started liking little bitty dogs. So when I heard little things scruffling and running around upstairs and downstairs, I was like, oh, hell no, we got to get up out of here because I'm not going to deal with that shit. So they started coming, but they were taking entirely too long. So on top of all the other shit, the maintenance issues, I'm telling y'all, we got rodents And y'all not making a big enough deal out of this shit. Like I, I don't know no other way to say this other than we black and the owner was white. And he was like, oh yeah, we have at my house, we have rodents coming in all the time. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, sir, I didn't grow up with rats and shit. That's a very big deal to me. Like you guys to do something about this. And so he agreed and he was going to call someone out. And apparently, instead of him doing it himself, he told his property manager to do it. And she was like, oh, no, we don't do that kind of stuff. They have to do that. And I was like, under normal circumstances, that would be okay. Like, under normal circumstances, if, getting rodents out the house wasn't part of the lease, I would be okay with that. But these rodents are coming in because of holes that y'all left in this house before we moved in. So this is y'all fault. So y'all need to fix this shit and get somebody out here to come and get this shit. Because who can live in a house knowing it's animals in the attic, in the basement, and two really large holes were in the hallway, you guys. So just my paranoia was on 10 because all I could think about was one of those things, finding a way to get through that hole into the hallway, into the house. So there were days, weeks, times where towards the end, because that was the final straw really, I was scared to even come out of the room because I'm like, if these things come through one of these holes, I'm gonna just die. Like, I'm gonna just die. If I walk up out of my room and see a possum or a raccoon, I'm gonna just die. Okay? So that was it. When she did that, I was like, no, because I didn't. If I would have talked to her in the process of trying to apply for the home, her attitude would have ran me away. So that was smart of him. I don't know if he did that intentionally, but that was smart of him because he was the cool, laid back, personable guy. So he's the one, you talk to before you get into the house because you feel comfortable and secure with him. But her, horrible experience with her. So when she did that, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start looking for something else. So I started looking for, another house to go to. And basically at that point, that's when all the shit hit the fan because remember I said I paid over $6,600. That $6,600 was just the first, last, and security deposit. That's not including administrative fees, a security fee, the application fee, plus, previous rent at the other house, moving company, furniture, all that kind of stuff. So we spent damn near 10,000, if not more, moving so abruptly into that house. So when we were trying to get out the contract, they were basically like, you can't get out your contract. And I was like, well, he told us that we could get out the contract with 30 days notice. And she was like, well, it don't really matter what he said. You can't get out your contract. You can't get out the lease. So I was like, I bet. So I did an email with a list of everything that was going on with the house, forwarded to her, him, and my sister's boss, who is a lawyer and who was going to be my legal representation. And I was like, this is everything that's going on with this house. This is when we moving out. Y'all can keep that first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, but I'm not paying nothing else. Because basically she was like, the first thing she said was we couldn't move at all. And then she was like, we would have to pay 3 months rent. And I was like, why would I pay 3 months rent when y'all got $6,600 already? It's literally the same amount. So you think I'm gonna give you $12,000 to get out of this hellhole? No. Who? Not me. So, we found a clause where legally, I don't remember, but I said it in the email, where legally we weren't bound to pay the rent. They had a certain amount of time to try to, rent the property. And if they didn't within a certain amount of time, then the rent would fall on us. So I cited that law and gave them a list of things. And of course, at that point, they was ready to talk and offer deals and all of that kind of shit. And I was just like, you know what? Just get me out of this lease, get me out of this house because it's too much. Now, I'm going to tell y'all the list of everything. And remember, this list is half of everything that was wrong with the house. Half. So, number one, there was loose flooring upstairs and downstairs. Remember, this is an old house, at least 100 years old. So with loose hardwood flooring, that's extremely dangerous, especially the upstairs flooring, which was in every freaking room. None of our doors inside had locks. So God forbid someone was to break in, there's no locks on the inside doors. There's no privacy. The bathrooms, no locks. Bedrooms, no locks. None of the doors had locks. The bathroom doorknobs don't even work. So they constantly would fall off. My office had a bathroom inside. One of the great things about the house. However, the doorknob would constantly fall off. So can I tell you how many times I was in the bathroom in my office and I got locked in because the doorknob came off. So if I was to close the door out of habit, and the doorknob fell off, I would be locked in the damn bathroom until my husband would let me out. So if he wasn't at the house, I would have to use the bathroom with the door open to avoid getting locked in. And you might be like, okay, well, just remember to keep the door open. But when you've been closing the door to use the bathroom for 32 years of your life, it's not that easy to say, I'm going to just leave the door open. That was a natural habit over 30 years of life. You close the door when you use the bathroom. Even if you're in your bedroom, you close the door. So can't tell y'all how many times I got my ass locked in the damn bathroom, which creates anxiety and paranoia within itself, claustrophobic, getting locked in the damn bathroom. On top of that, the closet doors didn't close all the way, cracks in the bedroom ceilings. We had mold in our pipes and in the basement. We had water heater issues. So there were days, weeks, months where we couldn't get no hot water. We had issues with our HVAC units shutting off properly or not shutting off at all. So we had a constant huge influx in our utility bill. There were times where, whether it was summer or winter, the bill would be $700 to $1,000 when today we'll probably do $88. So can you imagine if we do at the most 200, and that's if we running, the fireplace or the air nonstop. But we usually do $80 to $200 for our utilities. And 200 is a very big stretch. It's usually just 80 to 120 or 150. And because of those HVAC units, there were months where our bill was $700 to $1,000 because it would not cut off or it would not cut on. So we would be super duper hot in the summer or super duper cold in the winter. So imagine paying $2,200, being uncomfortable as hell because you cold, can't get your heat to cut on, and then or it won't cut off, and you super hot, and on top of the 2,200, you got a $1,000 emergency WB. Child. So our vents were extremely dirty and dusty. So both of us had severe sinus and allergy issues. My sinuses and allergies were so bad. My eyes were so fucked up to the point where I'm just now getting to a point where my eyes are kind of returning to normal. But they were so itchy, scratchy, dark, patchy, swollen, just horrible. It's taken me so much time to correct that damn problem. On top of that, there were holes, like I said, in the ceiling, in the hallway by the kitchen. So we had mosquitoes, horse flies, the holes in the attic, the basement, rats, squirrels, raccoons. On top of all of that, there was water and insulation issues in the basement because of the holes. Then we had no ventilation, no ventilation hole in our laundry room. So that was unsafe. That was a safety hazard every time we used the dryer. But who wants to drive to the damn laundry bad when you got a washer and dryer, just no ventilation. So anytime we ran the dryer, the whole bottom half of the house would heat up and sweat because there was no ventilation. We had, we never got our address numbers. We did not have a mailbox. There were electrical wiring issues, so the lights and stuff was constantly going out. Heat would constantly go out. Garbage disposal, dishwasher didn't work. We did not have any like cable and internet outlets when we first moved in. Stressed to him the importance of making sure that we had those things because we work from home. He said they would be done. They weren't. So that was a huge freaking inconvenience. And even when it was um, installed, we still had internet issues because of how the house is built, but they didn't tell us that. And so it was basically, it was extremely spotty. And we would have had to get the little Wi Fi boxes put in every room in order for us to have the internet and cable that we were used to having in newer homes in the old historic homes. So, whew, y'all, that was just a small list. Like I said, after they had done as much as they felt like they needed to do to satisfy us, that was a small list of things that was still left behind. So I got pushed downstairs by a ghost. A man shot his girlfriend and shot himself. Then we had the rodents, the raccoons and the squirrels and the what you call them things? What you call them things? They ain't raccoons, but the other things. The things that look like raccoons. We had all of that in the attic and in the basement, and that was the culmination of what created the final straw. So when all of that stuff started happening, and she was like, "They ain't gonna call nobody for the rodents," um, and they're not gonna do anything about the HVAC units and all of that kind of stuff. I was like, all right, let's go. So at that point, I think that was around, and then it was the holidays. Like nobody wants to be thinking about that kind of stuff around Thanksgiving and Christmas. We couldn't even have family over because I was concerned about some shit popping out literally from one of those holes. So it was just a horrible experience. That happened late November, early December. They didn't want to let us have to leave, so I was like, fuck it. Like, if I got to get this shit on my, on my credit just to get at this house, I gladly take that hit because we got to go. So we ended up trying to work out a deal with them, and it never seemed fair to me because y'all got my security deposit, y'all got my last month's rent. So bare minimum, you should expect to only get one $2,200 payment from me, for breaking this lease early. But they were trying to get, the lowest they were willing to go was 3 months of rent, and they wanted that shit in hand before we left. So they would have gotten $10,000 to $11,000 out of us basically in order for us to get out of that lease. And I'm like, so if you don't want to include my first month's rent, so you got $4,400 including my last month's rent and my security deposit, and you want me to give you an additional 3 months of rent, which would be $6,600. Plus, we still have to move. Like we still have to pay rent and a security deposit for the next home that we move into. We still have to pay the moving company and all of this kind of stuff. And we have specifically gotten like vintage, old school style decor and furniture for the historic home. So we wouldn't want that furniture in the new house that we're in now. So we were going to have to get pretty much a whole new house full of furniture on top of everything else. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that shit. Like y'all gonna keep that 4,400, that 6,600, and y'all gonna be satisfied. And it's just gonna be that on that. So we ended up moving January 2021. This new house is beautiful. We signed our second year lease, so we're still here. I don't have any plans of leaving until I'm ready to buy a home. Until then, we're gonna be here because that was just too much. But I had completely blocked that memory out of my head all of this year, all of last year. Once we moved, that was it for me. I did not want to think about that again. And so when she said, yeah, there's something on here from so and so, so and so, and I was just trying to make sure you were aware, I was like, what? You have got to be kidding me. And it completely just, whew, when I say y'all, it took me back, and all of that anger and stuff just completely just came rushing back. So I was like, I got to do this as a story time and make myself laugh because that was just horrible. So she said she's gonna, try to work with me and see what they can do. Because I told her, I was like, girl, I've seen you, all of my correspondence with them, all of the emails, because we had to leave so abruptly. And I was like, they have 4,400. Technically, they had 6,600. But I was like, if they didn't want to count the first month's rent, they have my security deposit and my last month's rent. And I was willing to, you know, waive the security deposit. They were going to have the last month's rent, and I was going to pay, an additional month of rent. We decided we were cool with that. So we would give them, they were still going to have 6,600. So to me, it didn't make sense for them to say, basically they wanted to control it and get as much money as they could because we were offering 6,600. They already had 44. We were going to give an additional 22, but they didn't want to agree to it the way we were saying it. They wanted to just get that 6,600 as an altogether new payment, which was going to give them 12,000 total. And I was not going to do that. So I was like, y'all gonna take this 6,600 and be glad because your ass don't deserve that for this bullshit y'all done put us through. So I told her that. I was like, yeah, I'll send you guys all of the email correspondence so y'all can see. It wasn't just a matter of, us leaving and, not giving them notice or not paying our rent or anything like that. We tried to come to an agreement and they just weren't, willing to work with us. So she was like, send it over to her because she, really wants to work with me or whatever so I can get it. So um, I'm at peace still. They didn't necessarily, stop me from getting the apartment that I want to turn into my office. But it was just, man, hearing their name. And if she would have been like, I'm sorry, Miss Love, but I can't give you this because of that, I would have been so pissed off. I would have wanted to go find them. Seriously, because it's like, y'all already jacked my 2020 up. Now y'all finna mess my 2022 up because you keeping me from doing what I'm trying to do. So let me know in a comment. You think I was being haunted by ghosts? Let me know in a comment if you think that's what it was. And also let me know what you would have done in that situation and if you've ever been in a situation like this. Have you ever been in an apartment or a rental home from hell? Like, let me know. Have you ever had any difficulties getting out of a lease? Because I know I cannot be the only one. Until next time, love, peace.